Hello and welcome to episode 7 of Playing Pretend with me, Chris McIlvenny. This week I'm joined by the very funny and very talented Diona Doherty. Diona is like 9 months pregnant, so it was so nice of her to take time out to speak to me. She's been in so many things, Give My Headpiece, Derry Girls, and she's a stand-up comedian as well. She is really good. You're going to love this one. This is Diona Doherty. Diona, thanks very much for doing this. Also, before we got on this call, I Googled Diona pronunciation.
Diona.
How is it?
Diona.
Diona? Right,
My
Diona.
dad's called Dee and my mum's called Donna, and they made up my name, Diona.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, because
Although there's definitely other people called Diona. Like if you put it into Facebook, there's like lots of people in China called Diona.
Oh, really?
And then I think it's pretty popular in Harlem as well. But like it's just by a pure fluke. I think I'm the only one here anyway.
Yeah, because I'd never heard it before, and what Google gave me was like a YouTube video on all these different people from all over the world pronouncing this name, and they were all saying it differently. They were like,
Was it in Chinese?
yeah, like it was like Donna, Diana,
Yeah.
Dinah. I was like, I'm lost. So I thought I'd just ask you because you know better
My
than
man.
anyone else.
You
Um,
just rang my man, should have told you.
yeah. So I normally start this podcast by saying how we first met, and you probably don't remember this, but we first met at uh, it was years ago at the BBC Norman Beaton Fellowship audition thing,
The radio thing.
the radio thing. Yeah.
Osh.
Yeah, it was
Paula McFetridge anyway, wasn't it?
it was Paul McFadridge. It was like it was to get because all different people from all over the UK like auditioned, and it was for like a 6 month contract with the BBC doing radio dramas.
Yeah, in London. I think it was Radio 4. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, you'd be like full time doing radio dramas. Did you get it?
No, no,
Near did I.
I don't get it.
I actually went 2 years in a row, I think. And I remember doing my like audition. Dewey went in a different room to do your audition and
Mhm.
then doing it. And then the feedback, they were like, I think they were like, you're just copying like I think it was like a Victoria Woods or something. They were like, just sounds exactly like Victoria Woods. Would you not put your own spin on it? And I was like, no, Victoria Woods is Victoria Woods, and I'm going to do exactly how Victoria Woods does it.
Absolutely.
Didn't get it anyway, so obviously didn't learn a lesson.
Yeah. I remember, yeah, because that audition, it was like one of the first like auditions I had because I was only like maybe like 17, 18. And I remember
Yeah, me too, definitely.
when they gave you like the feedback, I was like, they said they were like, you sound older than you look or than you are. So can you work on that? I was like, I I just spoke the way I speak. And they were like, you sound like an old man. I was like, okay, thanks.
But then why? Well, then sure you can play the old man parts. It doesn't
I
matter
know,
what
give me the part.
age
It's
you are. It's radio.
yeah, as the 80-year-old man. I would have loved that. But yeah, I didn't get it. But yeah, that's I first met you and I remembered you because everyone else was all Belfast, like running about, and then you were the Derry girl.
Pure dairy. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know. God, that's mad. That is like how many years ago do we think that is?
that's a good 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah, geez, it feels longer ago.
It does. But I
I
remember
don't.
just being buzzing, just going into the BBC, like telling your mates. They were like, "Here, do you want to go for lunch?" I'm like, "Nah, I've got an audition at the BBC, so I can't."
know that was my pure attitude whenever I was at Queen's and I got my first like BBC TV job, and it was like a really small part in a comedy show called Sketchy. And I remember going into my drama class purposely late. I don't even know if I was filming that day, but I think I wanted to make a grand entrance and let everyone know that I was filming at the BBC.
Yeah,
So I came in and I was like, sorry, excuse me, I'm late. I've actually just been like shooting a show. We show at the BBC, don't worry about it, whatever, it's grand. Goes like I'll be on TV in a few months' time. It's fine. Here, what are we learning about? Go on ahead. Are we all being sandbags today? What's happening? Um, and I was like pure smug about it, and I'm like it's the smallest part, but it was that sense of like, yeah, I've just been at the BBC. Do you know, like, at the beginning, if you hadn't been in to the BBC, you'd collect your lanyards. You'd be like, I don't want to give this back. It says my name on it beside the word BBC, and
yeah,
I have a lanyard. I'm gonna keep it.
yeah. I remember.
Right.
I was doing stage management at the the Grand Opera House, and so you were given like a wee card for whatever show you were doing, but it had all the codes for the doors on it, but it had my name on it. It was like backstage pass type thing. And I remember, like, I was like 16, 17, and I took a photo of it and put it on Instagram. And then someone was like, that's all the codes to get into like backstage at the Opera House. You need to take that down. I was like, oh, for fuck, that's
Yeah,
class. Backstage
Jesus.
pass. They were like, no,
The
take it down.
following week, Daniel O'Donnell's on doing a show and fucking all the biddies are in getting them through the doors because
Yeah.
they know all the codes. He's been ripped off the stage. Security's going wild.
Yeah. Um, so you said you went to Queens. Were you doing drama there?
I did drama with Irish and Spanish.
Wow.
I don't remember if no. So I did that in my first year. Absolutely hated it. I didn't enjoy Queen's, to be fair. Queen's is a great establishment, but I didn't enjoy it. I found it very I wanted more practical. I was there to be an actor, and on our first day, the like lecturer in the big lecture theatre, in my head it was like, coming from Derry, like going down to Belfast, it was like moving to the big city, and it was going to be like some like American university, and I was going to have a backpack and hold a file. Like I thought it was all going to be like dead glamorous. And then I went into my first day at Queen's, and the lecturer was like, "This is not RADA. This is not like a vocational course.
Hmm.
Most of you won't be performers, probably none of you." And I was like, it was like my balloon was being deflated by the second.
Yeah.
I was like, I forgot. So then I just decided to spend the whole of first year just having a really great time at halls. That was the main aim. It's
Hmm.
like the course didn't really matter. But then I left and went and did the 2 years performing arts at BMC, which was absolutely amazing.
Hmm.
And then went back and did the final year at Queen's just to get the degree.
Yeah.
Not that it meant anything, it really didn't, like, but just to have the box ticked so I'd have it if I ever needed it.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like that course really benefited me, and I know it benefits so many other people who were in my year as well, who've went on to be like technicians and directors and writers and practitioners, and they've done great things. But for me as a performer, that was what I wanted to do, and it didn't help me at all.
Yeah, I like my mom and dad really wanted me to go to Queen's, but it was mainly just because it's Queen's and it's like, oh,
The
Queen's.
prestige, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, like, I always wanted to go to drama school, but it wasn't for the degree. Like, I didn't care about the degree. It's just the training. So I was like, why would I go to like I hated like drama in school. Obviously, there was maybe 40% practical and 60% theory, and the theory was the most stupid thing in the world. It was like draw a costume for this character in this old Irish play. And you're like, I can't draw, and you have to say why
Yeah.
they wore a thatched hat and a jacket.
Or like a face map of like, oh, this character became really angry. Her eyebrow lifted, her brow furrowed, her mouth scrunched
Yeah.
up, and you're like, really? Like, are we describing people's faces? It was
Yeah,
bizarre.
brow furrowed was always a good one because they were like, "Oh yeah, that's good use of the word
Remember
furrowed there."
my drama teacher, like GCSE and A level, saying she loved looking out amongst the sea of like students during in the hall during like drama exams because everyone's faces would be like doing trying out all the expressions so they could figure out what they write,
Yeah,
and then she was like, it was always funny watching everyone just screwing up their faces trying to
yeah.
figure out the right words for it. But yeah, and I enjoyed drama at school much more than I enjoyed it at degree level.
Hmm. Like I was lucky that I eventually went to drama school in Manchester, and like it was ideal for me because I wasn't theory in any way. There was like I very rarely picked up a pen. I would highlight lines that I had to learn, but it was never. You would make notes on the notes that you were given, but it wasn't really anything
Yeah,
academic, which would have just killed me because I would have lost interest, and then I wouldn't have learned as much as I did with it being practical.
we had a module at Queen's called existentialism, and I still haven't a fuck what that means.
That seems very deep.
And then there was a business module, there was a Shakespeare module, there was at least Shakespeare's drama, but then there was like all these modules that just I was like, when can I get up and do a wee song?
Yeah.
It was brutal. I didn't enjoy it at all.
So like so obviously you went to Queen's to do drama. Like when you were a kid, did you always want to be an actor, or how did that come about?
And I always wanted to perform. I don't think I knew it was to be. an actor specifically, I think I went through them all. Like I knew I wanted to be in front of the camera, I knew I wanted to do TV, I knew I wanted to perform. So I did like the school shows and stuff, but I never had a lead part,
Mm.
much like now. And then I did like a bit of presenting, hosting things. Like I remember like getting down to like the final few to be the new like T4 presenter on Channel 4 when I was like 19 maybe.
Mhm.
And then there was like I did modeling and I did like loads of things. I was just experimenting, so it wasn't necessarily, oh, she's going to be an actor. It was like she's definitely a performer. I just and a creative. I just didn't know exactly what field, you know. And then when I the only reason I went to Belfast and went to uni was because I had a boyfriend in Derry, and I was like, you know, you're 18 and really dramatic, and I was like, no, we can't be apart that far, because
Yeah.
I would have went over maybe to England,
Hmm.
which I'm actually really glad I didn't now in the end up. So I went to Belfast to do drama, even though I remember the whole time going, any minute now, Holly, because they're going to film me, and I'll just go over there and do that. Like
Yeah.
that's how naive I was coming to Belfast, thinking they'll find me.
Yeah, when you're in the big city, I'm from Derry, so I'm like an anomaly. So I'm like,
I'll walk through Castle Court and Andrew Lloyd Webber will be like, "Who's this gal?
yeah,
We need her." You know,
yeah, he'll hear you on the phone to your mum and be like, "Oh my, that's exactly the accent I'm looking for.
hoist
Come
the
on,
stage.
yeah,
Yeah.
you've got the part."
It's our
That's
new
mad.
Dorothy.
Yeah. Um, I used to love them shows. You know the Andrew Lloyd Webber shows. The like,
Like Finding Dorothy and all
oh, they
that.
were unreal. And like,
Mm.
because they were like X Factor for musical theater, and I was like, ah, this is right up my street.
I love it because I absolutely love musical theatre, but I'm not a musical theatre performer whatsoever. But I love
Hmm.
watching it. Like I love getting to go see a like a big West End show or something. I
Yeah,
absolutely love that. So I love those shows as well. I think there's a wee bit of me watching just in awe, going, "You triple threat bastards."
I know it's crazy how talented like those. Like I like grew up doing musicals, but I was never good enough to ever do it. If people
Right.
are paying for it, I shouldn't be in it. Uh, but I always loved musical theater, and then when I lived in London, I would go see like a show every week, and it's so funny because everyone was like, "Yeah, you get to go see loads of theater," and my drama school teachers were like, "Right, when you're living in London, now go see a lot of plays and stuff." But I was going to see all the big musicals,
Wicked and Jersey
Matilda
Boys.
and all. I was like, "This is the
Mm,
best." Like
yeah, and
so,
they're like, that's not helping
no,
you
not at
learn
all.
about theatre at all. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
you're watching
I
people
know.
sing their heart out, and you can't do that. So no.
I know, I think it's what it is. I watch it being like, I'm so like jealous of how talented you guys are,
And
and
they
they work so hard.
they work so hard but make it look so easy. That's
Yeah,
the
I
thing.
know. That's real talent.
Oh God, it's unbelievable. But yeah, those
I
shows
know.
were so good.
That's it. I think even there was even a time, like there was a time whenever I was a teenager and I thought I was going to be a pop star as well. Like I just wanted to do everything, and I auditioned for like RT's "You're a Star." Do you remember that?
Yeah.
"You're a star," and I went to Dublin on a bus from Derry, which is like 4.5 hours. And
Mhm.
back then, probably took 3 days. I can't remember.
Mhm.
Probably had to bring meals and a sleeping bag.
Yeah.
But I went and auditioned, and like they they were all nah, you're all right. And then I was like, please, I'm coming away from Derry. My mum and dad don't even know I'm here. I was like 17. So then they were all singing some Shakira then, and I was like, and I didn't know any Shakira lyrics. So I was
Did
just
they just
basically
throw
did it.
out Shakira to you?
They said to me, sing us some Shakira. You sound like you could sing some Shakira.
That's so random.
And bleeding, because that's not true. So then I just made up. I just did a Shakira impression basically.
Yeah.
Like, because I was like, well, how do you sing a Shakira song like going la 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 la? It's like I'll just do an impression, which is what I did. And then they let me through to like the producer. These are the people you see before you do your audition. It's on camera.
Yeah.
And then they like literally, I think they just felt sorry for me and let me through to the stage where then I would like it would be filmed. And when I went to them, and I think I was singing some Rihanna song. Like looking back now, I'm like, what was I thinking? I'm not even a singer. Like,
Yeah.
and then I remember they were like, nah, and I was like, well, sing you some Shakira, because them and stuff.
They loved it. They loved it
They
last
fucking
week. Want to hear
they
this? You're rolling about in the
sealed the
muds.
deal next door.
Yeah.
But
I
no,
when I was about I think 15 or 16, X Factor were doing auditions, but it was like, like before the producers, before all that stuff, it's just to
yeah,
find people. but it was in, do you know the market, like in Belfast?
Yeah.
Like, so it was in like some community centre in the market, and we went, me and my two mates, and we were like a boy band. Well, we thought we were a boy band. We thought we were class with our Justin Bieber hairs and all. So we went, and we had like, we had "We Found Love" by Rihanna. So we did that, and like we thought we were class. No harmonies or nothing, just singing kind of out of key.
The whole thing together.
Yeah. And we had one guy, Sean, who was like unreal singer. So we were like, right, you do the start bit, and then we'll come in at this bit, and we were like doing all moves and all. And like I remember after we finished the song, we were like fist bumping each other, like, yeah, that was class. And then immediately they went, well, thanks very much for coming. It's gonna be a no today. And we were like, what? Did you
You like,
did
do
you
you
not
not
just
need a
see
wee bit
that?
of time to discuss with each
Yeah,
other if
because
you
that was
definitely want to
amazing.
let us
Yeah,
go?
because they didn't even look at each other. They just went,
They're like,
no, no,
nah.
no, get out. We're like, ah,
It's
shit.
brutal, isn't it? But I'm so glad. Like, could you imagine if I had gotten through and that sort of thing? Like, they didn't even air my audition, which was an even bigger blessing. Because if that footage was to surface today, I would die a death. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't be able to cope with that.
Yeah, because I always
But
think what life is like for like Owen Quigg nowadays. Like
yeah,
Owen
well,
Quigg
I
was
think
like so famous, like as a kid on X Factor, and then now he's
yeah.
just like a fella just living his life, and you're like, you're Owen Quigg, you're like so famous.
Well, he was presenting on Q Radio for a few years there, and I
Hmm.
think it just came to an end recently. So I don't really know. But it's hard to come back. It's like your girl. Remember your girl Nikki Graham that was in Big Brother?
Yeah,
Is she her?
yeah,
She was always freezing. She, I think I watched an interview with her one time when she was like, it's so impossible to have a normal life, like to earn a living after reality TV because she had an office job then, like a few years after Big Brother, because obviously all the sort of things dry up that you would
yeah.
earn money from if you don't have a service to offer or a specific skill set to offer if you're just
Hmm.
an appearance person, because then the next wave of contestants and whatever show you run come around. And she was saying like she had an office job, but she got fired because she was such a distraction for people coming into the office. Everyone wanted a photograph with Nikki,
That's
and
crazy.
she was like the celebrity. So they were like,
Yeah,
honestly, it's too, it's takes focus off our jobs here. You being in this office. So she got fired. She's like, it's impossible for me to have
that's
a normal
crazy. It's
job.
not her fault. Like,
Exactly. So you think like once you get to a certain level, it's like you're stuck in the middle because if you're not earning, you can't consistently still earn that money from whatever it is. You can't really go back.
yeah,
People won't hire you. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's
It's a
frightening.
tricky like middle ground, doesn't it?
Yeah, and especially with how popular like reality TV is nowadays, like it's
Yeah.
just
So
got
Nikki
bigger and
Graham
bigger.
just washes my dishes and hoovers my house now, and I throw her 20 quid a week. So
Yeah.
that's she's happy enough with
She's
that.
happy enough, and she doesn't get, and no one wants photos with her. You're like, you're sick of it now. You're like, all right, Nikki, you're not
I
famous anymore.
yeah, she keeps standing for.com just trying to get a photograph for everybody's up. It's
Get
fine.
out. I'm doing a podcast with Chris here. Go away. Yeah. So you obviously you went to Queens and stuff, but when did you decide that you wanted to try stand up?
Well, stand up only started for me like like proper stand up um 2 years ago, and a year of it's been in the pandemic, so
Mm,
that year is cancelled.
yeah.
Um, so when I was at Queens during just before the time I was booked that first job I was telling you about with the BBC that I came in really smug to my class
Mhm.
about, just before that, a couple months before that, I was part of a comedy sketch group called FNT Live, and we used to like say every 2 months produce like a 90-minute sketch show. And we'd have a comedians who would host it and a band that would play us out. It was like a big night, and everyone would get like free tickets into the local nightclub. And um, so we would do that. So I was involved with comedy from I was like 19,
Mhm.
so thousands of years ago, and it was that gave me like my first taste of like creating comedy.
Mhm.
And there was like 12 of us in that sketch group, and we did it for like a few years at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and we continued for about 3 or 4 years. But sort of so that sort of introduced me to the comedy world, and then it meant that I sort of became friends with all the comedians here and
Yeah.
met my husband who's a comedian. And then it was only like 2 years ago. Do you know, I think what started it off? I was maid of honor at a friend's wedding, and I was asked to do a speech.
Right.
And I did a maid of honor speech, but I basically like wrote it like it was a piece of stand up and performed it
Hmm.
like it was stand up, and I got like such a good reaction. And I was like, my husband was like, that was it. That was stand up. That was basically, you just did a 10 minute set there of stand up. So that's
Hmm.
just figure that out for stage.
That's good.
So it just went from there. Really, it felt like a natural next step was to try stand up.
Yeah, because it is quite different from acting because you're kind of obviously you are kind of playing like a caricature of yourself sometimes when you're doing stand up, like um but it's still you, and you're by
Yeah,
yourself, you're on stage, and you're there to make them laugh. Whereas with a
there is
play you
nobody
can,
to blame.
exactly, with a play you can kind of hide behind a character and stuff like that. So it's a very like it's a very daunting thing for me. I don't know if I could do it.
You see, it's like a one-man band as well, because as you're saying there, if you were acting on stage or on screen, there's a million people that play to create that role that you're portraying.
Mhm.
There's a writer and a director and costume and um a whole production team that all together create that character that you're uh it's also been prescribed to you by the writer, like this is how the
Yeah.
character should be. So you can hide behind that if people don't love that character, whatever. You're sort of like, well, that's not my creation. I put
Hmm.
my spin on it, but I didn't. This isn't my creation. Whereas when it's stand up, you're your own writer, producer, performer, creator, director, costume. Like you're the
Yeah,
only
you're wearing
person
all
that
the
is
hats,
controlling.
like, yeah.
So if anything is slagged or doesn't go well, it is only you to blame, and you
Yeah.
do blame yourself. You do come off going like, if you have a bad gig, you will like you leave going, what the fuck am I doing? And I think any comedian will tell you too, if you have a bad gig, you you sort of go, I never want to do that again. But I can't leave stand up on a low like
Yeah.
that. I'll
Yeah.
do one more one and it'll be good. And I'll leave on that. And then you'll do the next one, it'll be good, and you're all the fuck me, I'm brilliant. I'm doing this all the time now.
Yeah.
So never ending cycle. It's like being in a fucking paramilitary group. You can't get out.
Yeah.
You're
But
stuck.
a funny one. That's
But
a
a
funny
wee
part about
funny
it.
one.
Yeah, yeah, hilarious one. Because it's one of them things like writing, especially like obviously with that sketch group, were you writing a lot of the sketches and stuff?
Well, no, and I tried, and I was brutal.
Oh,
Like I
really?
wasn't, because I hadn't. I've only started properly writing this past few years, and um, I'm glad I only started now, because I have quite a lot of commissions now. I've written a good few plays and radio. I've written a short film for the BBC recently. Like I'm getting plenty of writing work, which
Hmm.
during the pandemic and during being heavily pregnant has been great that I can do that at
Yeah.
home. But years ago when I started, whenever we were doing the sketches, now this was like the sketch show, so this would have been like 12, 13 years ago. I tried to write stuff, but they were utterly shit. Like I remember writing a sketch about Wayne Rooney. Do you remember all the stuff came out that he like fancy grannies?
Yeah.
And I tried to write this sketch, and it was like him and a wee old woman on a bus, and then a spotlight would just come on them. We couldn't afford a spotlight. I don't know what I was thinking. And then it was like, do you know that song suddenly, na, 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 whatever it even, I don't know. And it was, anyway, not funny. It was so crap. And I remember like submitting it to like our group, being like, what about this sketch? And it was just like fucking radio silence, and then we just know it was never addressed, and they were shit. And I've written things in the past that I'm not proud of whatsoever. Like the BBC hired me about 5 years ago to write, I don't know if you've heard of Tight Shorts.
Yeah.
It's like all the sketches that are on the BBC. But so the very start, the very first batch of Tight Shorts, it was me, my husband Sean, Shane Todd, Mickey Bartlett, and maybe Colin Geddes. I can't remember. There was like five or six of us. I can't remember who
Hmm.
was specifically. So we were all hired to like write these sketches, perform these sketches, and there was like a batch of them that were going out for the Euros.
Yeah.
And mine's were shit. Mine's were brutal. I was all, I don't have any clue about football, and they were like, that's what will be funny about it. And I was all, will it be funny? I don't think it will. So I was like clutching at straws, and the stuff that's out there from that, I am not proud of. I'm like, I don't, So I fully believe that there's a time and a place for, you can't rush the process. Like I,
Yeah.
I I feel like I can write really well now, and I get plenty of writing work now, which is great. But I'm glad that I didn't push to try and be a writer 10 years ago when I was shit at it.
But also, it's learning. Like, you
Yeah.
know what doesn't work now. So it kind of you've went down those alleyways that you've got radio silence from people, and also working with the likes of Sean, your husband, and Shane Todd and Colin Geddes, who are constantly putting out videos,
Yeah, you learn.
sketches online. Like, they've kind of mastered it, and it's very weird. Like, because I have a lot of friends in Manchester, Liverpool, and stuff, and there's not many like comedians from there don't often do the amount of sketches that are put out here is just
Oh,
crazy.
really?
Yeah, it's
Mm,
strange. Like there's like because it's constant here, and there's so and like
yeah.
and those people like those sketches are like household names, the likes of like Barry the Blender Henderson or Mike McGoldrick and stuff like that. Like they're very well known. Whereas in England, I don't know if they do it that much.
You
To
see, I
like
think as
put themselves
well,
out there.
there's many many more comedians over there than there are here. So
Yeah,
it might just be there's too much competition possibly, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Whereas there's not as many here. Although I think for such a small place, we have a huge amount of such talented comedians. It's wild, you
100%.
know,
And I
for
also
such a
think
small place.
I also think maybe the problem is in England they have designated comedy clubs. Like they have places that are only open for comedy. We don't have that.
Yeah,
So it's kind
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, and you could like if you lived in likes of Manchester or London, you could gig three times a night, 7 nights a week.
yeah,
Whereas you could probably gig once a week here,
yeah.
and even then, as you say, it's a night that's on in a bar. It's not a comedy club, except
And
for the Empire. But the Empire isn't even either.
yeah, and a lot of the gigs you probably have to have a hand in putting it on yourself, like producing
Yeah,
it yourself, because no one really. It's strange. I think it's mad because of how many talented comedians there are from here that there isn't. Like there's a real niche in the market to open up. Maybe beside Filthy McNasty's a comedy club that would do
yeah.
unbelievably. But
But then you see as well too with the because the same audiences go to lots of the comedy nights, and because you don't get to gig as often as you would in England, I feel like the comedians in England get to really polish their first 10 minutes, like get to do it the same 10 minutes
mhm,
150 times. Whereas I think, say you were to do Lavery's on a Wednesday night, and then the next month you were back doing it again, you can't do the same material you did the month before.
yeah, because it's the same people come to see it.
So you're forced to write way more material, I think, than lots of the comedians who have the opportunity to. There might be 50 clubs in their city, so they get to
Yeah,
do all those with the
yeah,
same. They all have different audiences. Whereas and also, they may have a different in the same club. They do the same club a couple times in 1 month, and it's different audiences every time. Whereas here, it's not. So you
yeah,
don't have the beauty of like you don't have the beauty of completely polishing a set, and also you don't have the beauty of um being able to stick with that first 10-20 minutes for like a year. The
hmm.
comedians here write so much material because the audiences are
You
the
need
same
that amount of
audiences.
yeah, you need that amount of material.
You can't just keep telling them. They're like, yeah, we know the punchline. We were here last week doing the same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. See, I think, but also it's kind of here we're kind of stuck in a rut because there's not a designated comedy club. That means not as many people know that they enjoy going to stand up.
Yeah,
So less people do go to those like Lavery's on a Wednesday or the Empire on a Tuesday, whatever it is. Um, so it's kind of the same people going. Whereas if there was a comedy night, you would maybe have a year of trying to build an audience and build that venue as a place
yeah,
for people to try, like, go and see comedy and realize that they really enjoy it. Because really,
yeah.
the only because I know like friends and family of mine, like would would go to the big comedy gigs, knowing like the Odyssey, and you've got your Michael McIntyre's, your Lee Evans, but they wouldn't go to like local gigs, and I'm like, you really should. It's better because
Better, way cheaper, and way better.
I'm more relatable, and you're like, you'll find it way more funny. Whereas you've got those the English comedians that come over do the big arena gigs, and they walk through. They're like, oh, here, what's your airport like? It's crazy, isn't it? All the photos of the sausages, and people are like, ah, that's so
Oh,
funny because we see them
we
sausages in
we
the
do
airport.
have sausages
We
in our
have
airport.
sausages,
Oh, I
yeah,
know.
so
And
relatable.
even like my mum and dad came to like my third or fourth gig. It was in Derry in a bar, a brickwork comedy club up there, which is amazing, which is such a lovely club. And they were like blown. It was like a fiver in,
Mm-hmm.
and they got to see like five comedians. And afterwards, they were like, "That was like the best night ever. Why do we not do that more often?" And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "People have it in their heads that local comedy nights are going to be shit."
Yeah.
And that that if you're not doing the big theaters or the arenas, then you're not good, which is not true.
Mm-hmm.
People, the best nights are in those wee sweaty bars and clubs when
100%.
anything can happen and there's only 40 people, and those are brilliant, brilliant, brilliant nights.
Yeah.
And you know that's what you want people to see. You want people to try it once and go, Jesus Christ, that was great, I'm going to go again, and see. And then also, like, you don't know, you might get to see somebody before their star rises, for
Mm-hmm.
a fiver. And, 2 years later, they might be selling out the SSE. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Um, with you doing like stand up and stuff, obviously, with the majority of the gigs being in Belfast. Do you live in Belfast now?
I live in Craigavon, so I live just outside of Belfast. But like I moved out of Derry when like 14 years ago nearly. But yeah, the majority of gigs are in Belfast. Yeah, it's hard to say at the minute because it's been a
Yeah.
year of like I think whenever the gigs opened up again in like August, September time. I did a couple of gigs. I did some support for Shane
Mm-hmm.
and a few other wee like corporate ones. Um, so it's been like a brutal year for stand up, which has suited me well because I've been very sick,
Yeah.
pregnancy wise. But most of the gigs are in Belfast or else like festivals and stuff. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's just a real mix. It's very difficult to just do the comedy clubs because there only is a handful of them. And once you, as we were saying about the audiences being repetitive audiences, you can only really do those clubs a couple of times a year.
Yeah. Yeah, because then
You
you
can't
just,
do them every week.
yeah, you'll have about 6 hours of material if you do them every week. Be-
Absolute shit. You're turning out. Yeah.
yeah.
So in January, you really can really go back to May. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Try new things. I thought so. Obviously, you live in Craigavon now, and you're from Derry. It's quite obvious from your accent. You have very like quite a strong Derry accent. Then you got a part in Derry Girls, and you're playing a girl from Chernobyl.
Oh, isn't it?
That's
I
so
know.
bad.
Everyone says that. I'm like, that's acting. I know, but like because I actually originally auditioned for Michelle
Hmm.
for the part of Michelle, but I was far too old looking in comparison to the other actors who were auditioning for. Even though some of the girls are older than me,
Hmm.
that wasn't the point. I was like 5'11" and like just like shaped like a woman and just far older looking.
Yeah.
So it was never going to happen. But I think that the casting directors were just really hoping that something else would come in, and then this big foreign girl came in, and they were like, "Do not come in for this," because it didn't really matter that I looked older than the rest of them or that I was taller than them because I was just this big foreign Ukrainian.
Yeah.
So I know everyone says that to me all the time. I actually remember being on a train one time and a man came in, like going into Belfast and like with Victoria Street, and a man was all to me, "Do you need me to show you where do you need to go?" And I was all, "This is like a passenger," and I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Do you need help getting about?" And I was like, "No, I'm all right. What do you mean?" And he was all, "Oh no, I thought you were actually foreign. I thought you might have needed help." And I was like, "No, I'm from here." And he was like, "Jesus Christ." So he genuinely just thought I was Ukrainian.
That's acting. See, very
Here,
convincing.
very convincing, dodgy Ukrainian accent.
Yeah. um, yeah, because I remember, because obviously I had remembered you from meeting you at the BBC that time, and then I was like, oh, there's Diona, and then you come out with this accent. I'm like, She's actually from Derry. That's mental." Because I know there's some people who are in it who are playing people from Derry who are from Belfast, and I'm like, what are the odds that a girl from Derry gets a part as a Ukrainian? That's
And I
very funny.
remember seeing like the breakdown of the parts coming through, and I was like reading it through, and I was all, actually, she was originally called Kashusha, and then it got changed to Katya, and I was like, Kashusha, it's a funny weird dairy name, and then I was all, I've never heard, and then I read through, and I was all, oh, she's Ukrainian, and then you're all, fuck's sake, I have to learn a Ukrainian accent
Yeah.
now.
That's funny. So during like lockdown, well maybe not lockdown, but like during the pandemic, you've been filming Get My Headpiece.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
what's that like? Like obviously, because I would assume it would be mad being a part of the likes of Derry Girls and Give My Headpiece because they're so even though Derry Girls is quite new, it's still very iconic, like from here.
mm,
So,
yeah,
doing Get My Headpiece, obviously that's such a huge show. But what type of way is it filmed during a global pandemic?
yeah. With a 2 meter stick.
Really?
So we shot the last series on a newly built set. So it's been the same set that's been there for years. Because I was
Hmm.
on it. This is the third season I was in. There past. Even though in the first season I played a complete different character, played like a detective, and then I
Oh,
came back the next time and nobody knew it was the same person, so it was
hmm.
grand.
Yeah.
um, so this time they rebuilt a new set out in a warehouse that was like twice the size of their normal set, so they could place
Right.
people like against the stairs and at the door, and they would look like they were the same distance apart as they would be in the previous year's show,
That's
but
mad.
we're actually double the way apart, you know what I mean? But obviously it's a lot of one shots, it's a lot of like singles on each
Yeah.
person, because you can't get it two, you can hardly get a shot of two people in the one frame,
Yeah.
so
Otherwise, one will look massive and the other one will be tiny in the
exactly
distance.
apart. So
Yeah.
we shot it like that, and it was like it was all there's all the COVID measures were in place, but it
Hmm.
was weird because you know even you normally like have a wrap party, or sit and have your lunch together, but you had to go, you having your lunch in your own dressing rooms, like you just
Yeah.
the social aspect of going to work and filming it's completely removed during
Yeah.
COVID. It's not as much of a fun experience, but as regards being part of Give My Headpiece, and we're filming again this winter too.
Brilliant.
Um, as you say, like it's such an iconic show. It's like a real, it's a it's a real part of our comedy history here. They were the first guys to really put comedy here on TV,
Hmm.
and I've been working with them about 5 or 6 years. I do a radio show with them every year as well called The Perfect Ulster, and they're the most, like the Hole in the Wall gang are the most loyal guys. Like once they find an actor or two that they like to work with,
Hmm.
you'll get work galore for years to come.
Yeah.
And they're very helpful and kind. So I absolutely adore them. I owe them everything.
Yeah. A lot of the time, that's all you ever want is to work with people who are sound and also to be sound yourself because therefore
Yeah,
people want to work with you again. If you're dead on, you don't cause any trouble and you're nice, well then yeah, come back and do it because it was a pleasure doing it.
that's it.
It's
You just do your job well, and there's no reason why you wouldn't get hired again.
yeah.
And then like because recently, or the last series, I was on the Blame Game as well, and I'm doing it again this next series,
Hmm.
next month actually. Um, Tim is like, "Would you fuck off? You're in everything." It's like I'm just following him around, going, What's your next job? Can I be in it?"
Yeah, what's next?
Yeah.
So obviously you're heavily pregnant. When are you due?
My due date is in like less than 3 weeks, but
It's mad.
I'm considered full term now, so I'm 37 weeks, which means you could go any day. So
Yeah.
if I leave because I'm in labor, maybe I'll just stay and finish the podcast. I'll let
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
afterwards if I'm having contractions.
Yeah, yeah. That'd be good
Yeah,
for the
so I could
podcast.
go anytime now, but it's that stage where you're like, shit, should I like have the car seat in the car now, and all those sorts of things,
Yeah.
those wee bits that you don't think about. But yeah, the baby's fully cooked. I can
Yeah.
fucking barely breathe. My lung capacity is down to 2%.
Because it's crazy. A friend of mine's sister just had a baby, and talking to him about it, because it's really weird, like two 20-year old, 20-odd-year-old fellas talking about a girl having a baby. It's very
Yeah,
like alien to us. And I was just
yeah.
like, how mad is that? Like she's like she's like because he was like, oh, she's bored now, she just can't wait for the baby to be born, she's went through Netflix and she's just sitting about bored, and I'm like, how mad is it that when that baby comes, like she will never be bored again because she'll just be non-stop and have a wee
Yeah.
baby. She goes to the hospital,
Like
comes back, and she has a baby with her
and also you have it all the time.
all the time.
Like it's not like, you're all, oh, we'll go away for the weekend and we'll go out and do so this on Friday night, and you're all, oh fuck, there's that baby. we're gonna have to bring that baby or
Yeah.
else figure it out. Because even like Sean and I are, we cannot sleep at the minute. We're both like, he's a terrible sleeper and I'm like heavily pregnant, so we get up every night for about 3 hours in the middle of the night and come down and have toast and talk shit. And last night we were like, because so we were supposed to have, Sean and I wrote an adult Christmas show for the Opera House and for the Waterfront that were both programmed for last Christmas but got cancelled because of COVID. But they're
Mhm.
both going on this year. And we're both in one of them and obviously not in the other one because you just can't do all the jobs, Chris.
Yeah.
So we're going to do the Opera House one in the Baby Grand, the adult Christmas show. And we were like, oh, who's going to look after our baby? Because we will both be there all day and on
Yeah.
stage. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's at night time. And we
Yeah.
were like, Jesus, those are real adult conversations we need to have now about like childcare, because you can't just be like, Sean was like, we'll just bring her down. And I was like, you can't bring an 8-month-old baby and leave her asleep in the green room and go out and do a fucking show and then
Yeah.
come back. You just can't do that.
Yeah.
So it's a bizarre new world to have to navigate.
Yeah. I'm well. See, because it's weird because it's like here, so it's not as big as I've been speaking to a few people who like have been working on Broadway and stuff, and they said like there's Broadway creche. So like you bring your kid, and there's like
I
people who look after your kid. So you go to
like
rehearsals,
IKEA,
yeah, and you just drop your baby off, and there's all other Broadway babies, and they just they play and
Broadway
stuff.
baby. I
They are
know
yeah,
that would be
but
unreal.
you should have the baby crash.
Or just like get somebody who works at the bar.
Yeah,
Like, see, during the show, you're hardly doing fuck all, are you? There's nobody out here buying drinks. Look after my child.
yeah. So you're good mates with Tim McGarry these days, so just get him to mind it. Like Tim, just
Fucking
look after that baby.
the busiest man in the country. You wouldn't cancel all your work and come look
Yeah,
after my baby.
yeah. I've got a show in the baby ground. Yeah, that's crazy. What a crazy thought. Fair play
It's
to
a
you.
whole new thing, yeah. But we'll
Yeah,
figure it out.
yeah. So just to finish off, do you know what advice would you give for any like aspiring actors or stand-ups looking to get into the industry?
Um, I think there's no one way into the industry, which is probably the best advice. I remember being devastated that I had thought that I'd missed the boat because I didn't go off to drama school, or that I didn't start really young. Because you see actors now who are like starring in TV shows and they're 15 and they're
Yeah,
nailing it and they're getting BAFTAs and you're like, what's happening? You know, there's no one way into it, whether you start in your 50s or 60s or 30s or teens, and whether or not you go to drama school or just do community theatre and then, work your way up. I think as long as you know what you want to achieve and you work really hard, that's all anyone can ask from me. And also, this is probably isn't even for actors or whatever, but don't put the value of your success on your fame or follower count or any shit
hmm,
like that, because that is not a representation of your body of work.
yeah, yeah. Because the generation these days is very much fame and followers. That's what it's all about.
That makes you successful. Whereas I know loads of, like, you could look up loads of really successful performers and actors who don't even have Instagram, and you're like,
Yeah,
well, then how are we measuring their success then? Because it's not on their followers. Because we live in this world where it's bloody well like where people just get famous on TikTok by copying other people's work. It's like
yeah,
it's like people lip sync on TikTok to
yeah,
somebody else's soundbite, and
yeah,
then it gets like millions of views, and you're like, but you didn't have to create anything there. You're just lip syncing to somebody else's funny bit.
yeah.
That's a fucking like
It's bad.
what? How are you making money and a living off just lip syncing to other people's shit? It's the lowest form of creativity in my
Yeah,
opinion. And I'd hate to ever be categorized with um people who mimic other people's work on TikTok. I feel
yeah,
like, well, I don't if that's what it takes to get millions of followers in order to be successful,
yeah. It's not
you're
worth it.
all right. I'll not bother.
No, definitely not. Listen, Diona, it's been lovely speaking to you. Thanks very much for doing this.
Thanks for
And
having me on. All the best with your
best of
podcast.
luck with the baby.
Yeah,
Is it a
thank
boy or a
you.
girl? Do you know?
It's a girl.
It's a girl.
I
Well,
hope. I mean, I've heard people, and then it comes out and it's not a girl and it's a
oh
boy,
god.
or vice versa, and
Have
that's
you got
also happening
everything pink
sometimes.
and all? Is everything like?
Like I remember at the start going, I'm just gonna buy neutral colors because I don't want to be that. I'm not raising no princess. Fucking
Yeah,
everything's pink.
yeah, but that yeah, you have no choice. It's what
She's like,
happens.
but it's cute. Aye,
Yeah,
so you just have it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, best of luck with it. Thanks very much. So there you have it, folks. That was Diona Doherty. Next week, I am joined by the absolutely hilarious Paddy McDonnell. So tune in next week for that. If you could, tell your friends about the podcast, like and subscribe to the video. This has been Playing Pretend with Chris McIlvenny. See you next week.